I never imagined I would stand at my daughter's wake alone. That grey Wednesday morning at the funeral home, I kept glancing toward the entrance, waiting, praying that perhaps there had been traffic, that his flight had been delayed, that there existed some rational explanation for why Marcus, my son-in-law of 7 years, wasn't present to mourn his wife. The funeral director approached me with that rehearsed compassion they all perfect over time. "Mrs. Chen, should we perhaps wait a few more minutes?" I swallowed hard, fighting to preserve whatever dignity remained. "No, let's begin." 42 people arrived to pay their respects to Sarah. I counted each one. 42 individuals who cared enough to take time from their busy lives to honor my daughter's memory. Her husband was not among them. I delivered the eulogy myself. What other choice existed? I spoke of Sarah's childhood, her passion for painting, how she had graduated magna cum laude from Stanford, how immensely proud I felt when she launched her own marketing agency. I omitted the part about her struggles with depression in recent years, or how she had grown distant from everyone, myself included. I avoided mentioning how her marriage appeared to be crumbling, though I had pretended not to notice the signs. As mourners filed past the open casket, offering their condolences, I caught fragments of whispered conversations. "Where's Marcus? Isn't that her husband?" How devastating for him to miss this. The sympathy in their voices constricted my chest. If only they understood the truth. Following the service, I drove to the cemetery by myself. The hearse trailed behind, carrying my daughter's body. I should have been concentrating on Sarah, on bidding farewell, on grieving appropriately. Instead, my mind kept circling one persistent question: where in God's name was he? Later that evening, sitting in my kitchen, I stared at my phone. I had called Marcus 8 times. Every single call went directly to voicemail. I had sent numerous text messages, no response whatsoever. Sarah's death had been unexpected. A stroke at 32, they explained. Stress-induced. I had telephoned Marcus immediately after the hospital declared her dead, and he had seemed appropriately shocked, appropriately grief-stricken. He had wept on the phone, inquired about arrangements, promised to fly home from his brother's place in Seattle, where he claimed to be visiting. That conversation had occurred 5 days ago. I opened my laptop and did something unprecedented. I checked social media. Sarah had always been private regarding her personal life, and I had never been one for Facebook or Instagram. But grief compels you towards strange actions. I located Marcus's Instagram account without difficulty. His profile picture still featured him and Sarah from their anniversary celebration the previous year. Both were smiling, her arm draped around his waist. He looked handsome in that photograph, dark hair styled meticulously, brown eyes radiating warmth, or what I had mistaken for warmth. I scrolled through his recent posts, my heart pounding for reasons I couldn't yet identify. Photos from Seattle, dinners with his brother, hiking excursions, all posted after Sarah's death, all depicting a man who appeared anything but grief-stricken. Then I discovered it. Posted 4 hours ago, while I had been delivering my daughter's eulogy, was an image that turned my blood to ice. Marcus in bright swim trunks, beer in hand, standing on a sun-drenched patio with palm trees behind him. He was laughing, his head tilted back, completely carefree. Beside him stood a woman I recognized, Lucia, the housekeeper who had been cleaning their home for months. Her arm encircled his shoulders, and they were both grinning at the camera. The location tag read, "Los Angeles, California." The caption made my hands tremble. "Life's too precious to waste it. Here's to fresh starts." I stared at that photograph for 20 minutes, reading and rereading those words. While I had stood over my daughter's grave, tossing dirt onto her coffin, her husband was celebrating fresh starts in Los Angeles with another woman. The comments section proved even more disturbing. Friends congratulating him on the trip, asking if he was finally content, telling him he deserved this happiness. One comment from his brother made my stomach churn. So glad you're finished with all that stress. Lucia is amazing for you. Finished with? All that stress. My daughter's death was merely stress to be completed with. I closed the laptop and walked to the liquor cabinet, something I rarely did. I poured 3 generous fingers of vodka and sat back down, attempting to process what I had witnessed. 7 years of marriage, 7 years of holiday gatherings, celebrations, birthdays. I had watched Marcus become part of our family, had grown to care for him like a son. I had even defended him to Sarah when their arguments intensified, telling her that marriage demanded patience and understanding. What an absolute fool I had been. My phone vibrated, a text message from an unknown number, but somehow I knew precisely who it was before I even looked. "Mom, come to my house immediately. We need to talk. Don't tell anyone. Sarah." I dropped the phone. It clattered against the kitchen floor, the screen fracturing, but I barely registered it. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely retrieve it. I read the message 3 times, then 4, then 5. It had to be some kind of error, a cruel joke, someone who had obtained Sarah's phone. But the number was different, and who would commit something so twisted? I grabbed my car keys with trembling fingers. I had to see for myself. I had to understand what kind of nightmare I had stumbled into, because one thing was absolutely certain. I had just laid my daughter to rest this morning, and dead people don't send text messages. I drove to Sarah's house in a fog, my mind refusing to accept what seemed impossible. The familiar tree-lined street appeared the same as always, but everything felt different now. Wrong somehow. I had been here just 3 days ago, helping Marcus pack some of Sarah's belongings before his supposed trip to Seattle. He had been crying then, or at least I had believed he was crying. Sarah's house sat dark against the November sky. A single light glowed from the kitchen window in the back. My hand shook as I used my spare key to unlock the front door. "Sarah?" My voice cracked as I called out. Silence greeted me. I walked through the living room, past the sofa where I had comforted Marcus 5 days ago when the hospital called, past the family photographs on the mantel. Sarah's college graduation, their wedding day, Christmas mornings, everything looked exactly the same, yet nothing made any sense anymore. The kitchen light drew me forward. As I rounded the corner, I froze. My daughter sat at her own kitchen table, very much alive, a cup of tea growing cold before her. She looked up when I entered, her face pale and drawn, dark circles beneath her eyes that I had never noticed before. She had lost weight, considerable weight. Her clothes hung loose on her frame. "Mom." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry." I couldn't move, couldn't speak. My brain struggled to process what my eyes were witnessing. This was my daughter, alive and breathing, sitting in her kitchen 4 hours after I'd watched her. Coffin lowered into the ground. "You're supposed to be dead." The words emerged strangled, barely human. Sarah's face crumpled. I know how this appears. How insane this must be for you. Please sit down. Let me explain." I remained standing, my legs locked in position. "I buried you today, Sarah. I threw dirt on your coffin. I gave your eulogy. What kind of sick game is this?" "It's not a game." She stood up slowly, her movements careful, deliberate. "Mom, I'm in serious trouble. The kind of trouble that could destroy not just me, but you too. Everything we've worked for, everything our family has built." "What are you talking about?" Sarah ran her hands through her hair, a gesture I had seen her make thousands of times since childhood when she was nervous or scared. 8 months ago, I made a terrible mistake at work, a huge mistake. I was handling the Silverton Pharmaceuticals account. You remember the biotech company? They were our biggest client, worth $3 million annually. I nodded numbly. She had talked about that account constantly, how it was going to establish her firm for years. I discovered they were falsifying their clinical trial data, hiding serious side effects from a new cardiac medication, People were getting sick, Mom, really sick. Some were dying. Her voice broke. I should have reported it immediately, but Silverton's CEO, Patricia Brennan, she offered me $600,000 to keep quiet. Just look the other way, she said. Let the FDA approval process continue. My stomach dropped. Please tell me you didn't accept it. Sarah's silence was answer enough. Jesus, Sarah, what were you thinking? I was thinking about Marcus's spending, about the mortgage on this house, about the debt we'd accumulated trying to maintain appearances. He wanted the renovations, the new car, the trip to Japan. $600,000 would have solved everything. She looked up at me, tears in her eyes. But I couldn't do it. Mom, I couldn't let people die for money. So what happened? I went to the FBI, turned over all the evidence, became a whistleblower. Brennan was arrested last month, and the medication was pulled from the market. But before they arrested her, she made certain I'd pay for betraying her. Sarah walked to the kitchen window, staring out into the darkness. Brennan has connections, Mom. Dangerous connections. The kind of people who don't forgive and don't forget. 4 weeks ago, I started. Receiving threats, phone calls telling me I'd destroyed too many careers, cost too many people too much money. They wanted me to disappear permanently. I sank into a chair, my legs finally giving out. So, you faked your death? Dr. Martinez helped me. She's an old friend from college, works at the hospital now. We staged the stroke, falsified the death certificate. Martinez said I had maybe hours before Brennan's people located me. This was the only way. The pieces were starting to come together, but one enormous question remained. What about Marcus? He was devastated when I called him. He cried on the phone. Sarah's expression hardened. Marcus knew everything, Mom. About the Silverton account, about the money I turned down, about the threats. He knew I was planning to fake my death. She paused, her voice dropping to barely audible. He was supposed to play the grieving widower for 6 months, then quietly relocate and meet me in Vancouver. We'd start over together. But he's in Los Angeles with Lucia. Sarah's laugh was bitter and broken. Yeah, I saw the Instagram post too. He was supposed to wait, Mom. We had a plan, but apparently he had a better one. I thought about the photo, about Marcus's radiant smile, about the comments from his friends. He was never planning to meet you in Vancouver, was he? No. I figured that out when I saw my life insurance policy had been cashed. $850,000 paid out to my loving widower just yesterday. Sarah turned back to face me. He played his part perfectly, didn't he? The shocked husband, the grieving widower, too distraught to even attend the wake. He probably figured being mysteriously absent would make him seem even more tragic. The full scope of the betrayal hit me like a physical blow. He let me bury an empty coffin. He let me grieve for you while he was planning his vacation with his lover. I'm sorry, Mum. I never meant for you to get hurt like this. I thought if I could just disappear, start over somewhere else, maybe everyone would be safer. But I couldn't let him get away with this. He not only betrayed me, he betrayed you too, made you suffer while he counted his money. I looked at my daughter, thinner, haunted, but alive, and felt something shift inside me. The grief I had carried for 5 days began transforming into something else entirely, something harder and colder. What do we do now? I asked. Sarah met my eyes, and for the first time since I had walked into her kitchen, I saw a spark of the determination that had made her successful in business. Now we make sure he doesn't get to enjoy that money, and we make sure he pays for what he put you through. How? A slow smile spread across Sarah's face, and I realized my daughter had inherited more of my calculating nature than I had ever known. Well, Mom, legally speaking, I'm still dead, which means Marcus is about to discover that being married to a dead woman has some very serious complications. Sarah moved to the kitchen counter and pulled out a laptop I had never seen before. Her movements were careful, methodical, like a woman who had been planning something for a long time. "There's more you need to know, Mom. Things I discovered after I was supposed to be dead." She opened the laptop and turned the screen toward me. Marcus wasn't just planning to abandon me in Vancouver. He was planning to destroy me long before that. The screen displayed email exchanges, bank, records, text message screenshots. My eyes struggled to focus on the details, but Sarah walked me through each piece of evidence with the precision of the marketing strategist she had trained to be. 4 months ago, I started noticing money missing from our joint accounts, small amounts initially, 300 here, 400 there. When I confronted Marcus about it, he said he was purchasing surprise gifts for our anniversary. She clicked to another screen. He was buying gifts, all right. Just not for me. Photos of expensive watches, designer clothing, and luxury hotel receipts filled the screen, all purchased during times when Marcus claimed to be visiting his brother in Seattle or attending conferences in San Francisco. Lucia wasn't just our housekeeper, Mum. They've been having an affair for 9 months. These hotel receipts show they were meeting twice a week, sometimes 3 times, always on my credit card. My hands clenched into fists. He was spending your money to cheat on you. It gets worse. Sarah's voice was steady, but I could see the pain behind her eyes. When the FBI investigation started, and I told Marcus I might have to enter witness protection, he didn't just agree to come with me. He encouraged it enthusiastically, said it would be an adventure, a chance to start fresh. But look at this. She opened a new folder filled with more screenshots, text messages between Marcus and someone named Anderson Investigations. He was already talking to a private investigator, Mom, not to help protect me from Brennan's people, but to gather evidence that I was mentally unstable. Look at these messages. I leaned closer to read. The messages were cold, calculating. Marcus describing Sarah's depression, her drinking, her erratic behavior since becoming a whistleblower. He was building a case that she was having a mental breakdown, that she might harm herself or others. He was going to have me committed. Worse than that, he was setting up a scenario where my death would look like suicide. A mentally disturbed whistleblower who couldn't handle the pressure and took her own life. He even researched how to make it look like I'd been planning it for months. Sarah clicked to another file. Financial documents showing Marcus had taken out additional life insurance policies on her without her knowledge. Policies worth over $1.2 million total, all with suicide clauses that would still pay out if she waited 2 years after. The policy date. He's been planning this for 2 years, Mom, long before the Silverton situation. He married me, convinced me to take out massive life insurance, and then waited for the perfect opportunity to cash in. The room seemed to spin around me. This wasn't just betrayal or even greed. This was something much more sinister. He was planning to murder you, or drive you to suicide, which would be cleaner legally. The private investigator was documenting everything to support his story. Stressed businesswoman, money problems, legal troubles, history of depression. It would have been an open and shut case. I stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. Outside, the neighborhood looked peaceful, normal. Inside this kitchen, I was learning that my son-in-law was essentially a predator who had spent years planning to kill my daughter for money. But then you faked your death first. Dr. Martinez's plan gave me an unexpected advantage. Marcus thought he'd won. He got his insurance. Money without having to commit actual murder. He could play the tragic widower, collect his payoff, and start his new life with Lucia without any blood on his hands. Sarah pulled up another screen showing bank activity. He wasted no time. Insurance money deposited on Monday, $60,000 transferred to Lucia's account on Tuesday. Plane tickets to Los Angeles purchased Wednesday morning. He was out of state before my body was even cold. Except your body was never cold because you were never dead. Exactly, and here's where it gets interesting. Sarah's expression shifted, becoming more calculating. Marcus doesn't know that I'm alive, but he also doesn't know that I found all this evidence before I died. He thinks he covered his tracks perfectly. She opened a new folder labeled Insurance Fraud Evidence. The contents made my breath catch. Sarah had documented everything: the forged applications, the unauthorized policies, the payments to the private investigator, the affair with Lucia, even communications showing Marcus had researched methods of murder that would look like accidents. He committed multiple felonies, Mom: insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, theft, adultery with financial implications for the divorce proceedings he was planning to avoid by becoming a widower. Sarah closed the laptop. The question is, what do we do with all this information? I sat back down, my mind racing. We could go to the police, have him arrested for fraud. We could, but there's a problem with that approach. Sarah leaned against the counter. If I reveal that I'm alive, I have to explain why I faked my death. Dr. Martinez could lose her license, maybe go to prison for falsifying records. The FBI witness protection people will be furious that I went off script, and Brennan's people will know exactly where to find me. So we're stuck. Not stuck. We just need to be smarter about this. Sarah sat back down across from me. Marcus thinks he's won. He's got his money, his lover, and his freedom. He's probably planning to stay in Los Angeles for a few months, let the grief period pass, then come back and sell the house, liquidate everything else, and disappear forever. What's stopping him? Well, technically he can't sell the house or access most of our shared assets while I'm legally dead. The estate has to go through probate, which takes months. But he's got the life insurance money, so he figures he can wait. Sarah smiled grimly. What he doesn't know is that I documented his fraud before I died, and dead women can still file insurance claim disputes. I stared at my daughter, seeing a side of her I had never witnessed before. The anxious, overwhelmed woman I had worried about for months had been replaced by someone harder, more strategic. What are you planning, Sarah? I'm planning to let Marcus enjoy his vacation for exactly 2 more weeks. Let him get comfortable, spend some money, make some plans. And then I'm going to systematically destroy every lie he's built. She opened the laptop again. I've already filed disputes with all 4 insurance companies claiming fraud. The investigations will freeze his accounts within days of being initiated. Can you do that while you're dead? I set up the disputes before I died, with instructions to my lawyer to file them if certain conditions were met. As far as the insurance companies know, Sarah Chen suspected her husband was planning to kill her and took precautions. She pulled up legal documents. I also changed my will the day before I died, leaving everything to you and cutting Marcus out completely due to suspected infidelity and financial impropriety. The scope of Sarah's planning was staggering. You've thought of everything. Not everything. I didn't think he'd be stupid enough to post photos of himself partying in Los Angeles 4 days after my wake. That was a gift I couldn't have planned for. Sarah's smile was cold. Those photos, combined with the financial records showing money transfers to Lucia, will make the insurance fraud case airtight. What about Lucia? She's complicit in this. Lucia's the least of our problems. She's just a woman who thought she was dating a rich widower. When Marcus's money disappears and the fraud charges hit, she'll disappear too. Women like Lucia don't stick around for poor men with legal problems. I looked at my daughter with a mixture of pride and concern. This is a dangerous game. Sarah, what if Marcus figures out you're alive? Then we accelerate the timeline, but I don't think he will. He's too busy celebrating his victory to question it. She closed the laptop again. Besides, Mom, he's already made his biggest mistake, which is, He underestimated both of us. He thought you were just a sad old woman who'd grieve quietly and never ask questions. He thought I was too weak and depressed to ever fight back." Sarah's eyes hardened. He was wrong on both counts. I felt something settle in my chest, a calm determination I hadn't experienced in years. "What do you need me to do?" "For now, just keep being the grieving mother. Don't change anything about your routine. But in 2 weeks, when the insurance companies freeze his accounts and he comes running back demanding answers, I need you to be ready." Sarah met my eyes. "Because that's when we spring the trap. And that's when Marcus learns that some games have consequences he never saw coming." The 2 weeks that followed were the longest of my life. I had to continue playing the role of the grieving mother while knowing my daughter was alive and hiding just 30 minutes away in a small apartment she had rented under a false name. Every day felt like walking a tightrope, maintaining the facade while helping Sarah orchestrate what she called Marcus's reckoning. I visited Sarah's grave twice a week, just as a bereaved mother would. I brought flowers, stood there for appropriate amounts of time, and even spoke to the headstone when other visitors were nearby. It felt obscene, performing grief over an empty coffin, but it was necessary. Several neighbors and family friends approached me during these visits, offering condolences and asking about Marcus's well-being. "Such a tragedy," Mr. Patterson from down the street said during one visit. "Poor Marcus losing Sarah so young. Is he holding up all right? I haven't seen him around." "He's taking some time away," I replied, the lie sliding out. "Easier than I expected. Staying with family. The grief has been overwhelming for him." What I didn't tell Mr. Patterson was that I had been monitoring Marcus's social media obsessively. The Los Angeles photos continued. Beachside dinners, sunset cocktails, spa treatments, shopping sprees. Lucia featured in most of them, sometimes with his arm around her, sometimes kissing her lips. The comments from his friends had evolved from sympathy for his loss to celebration of his healing journey. His brother posted, "So proud of you for choosing happiness. Sarah would want you to live your best life." That comment made me want to throw my phone across the room. Sarah had been busy during those 2 weeks from her temporary apartment. She had been feeding information to insurance investigators, providing them with time-stamped evidence of Marcus's affair, his suspicious financial activities, and most damning, his social media posts showing him celebrating in Los Angeles days after his wife's wake. The investigators are calling it one of the most clear-cut cases of insurance fraud they've ever seen, Sarah told me during one of our secret meetings at a cafe outside town. She looked healthier now, having gained back some weight and lost the haunted expression she had worn that first night. 4 insurance companies, $1.9 million in fraudulent claims, and he's literally posting evidence of his crimes online. When do they act? Today, actually. The accounts should be frozen by this afternoon. Marcus is going to wake up tomorrow morning unable to access any of his money. Sarah stirred her coffee slowly. "I estimate he's already spent close to $90,000 in Los Angeles. When he can't pay for his hotel room, reality is going to hit pretty hard. What if he just stays in California, disappears?" He can't. Lucia doesn't have that kind of money, and without access to the insurance funds, he's essentially broke. His credit cards are tied to accounts that are about to be frozen. He'll have to come back and face the consequences. Sarah was right. On Thursday afternoon, my phone started buzzing with calls from a number I recognized. Marcus's cell phone. I let them all go to voicemail. By evening, I had 14 increasingly frantic messages. The first few were confused. "Helen, something's wrong with my bank accounts. Can you call me, please?" By the 8th message, panic had crept in. "Helen, I'm stuck in Los Angeles. The hotel is saying my cards aren't working. I need you to wire me some money until I can figure this out." The final messages were desperate. Please, Helen, I know you're getting these. I'm scared. Something's happening and I don't understand. They're saying I can't leave California until I settle my bills. Please help me." I played each message for Sarah the next morning. She listened with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not satisfaction exactly, but a grim sense of justice being served. "He's really panicking," I observed. "Good, he should be." Sarah closed her laptop where she'd been monitoring news feeds about insurance fraud investigations. "The FBI contacted me yesterday. Contacted my lawyer claiming to represent my estate. They want to interview the surviving family members about possible financial irregularities involving the deceased's husband." "They want to interview me?" "And Marcus, when he's back in the country, which, according to the California authorities, should be very soon. They're not going to hold him indefinitely, but they are requiring him to settle his debts before leaving." "How is he going to do that without access to his accounts?" Sarah's smile was cold. "That's where Lucia comes in. Turns out she's been bragging to her friends about her rich American boyfriend, posted photos of the expensive gifts he's been buying her, the luxury hotels they've been staying at. When the money dried up yesterday, so did her enthusiasm for their relationship. She left him, took the first flight back to Los Angeles this morning. Marcus is alone in a strange city with no money, no friends, and a growing list of legal problems." Sarah leaned back in her chair. "I almost feel sorry for him. Almost." I didn't feel sorry for him at all. Every time I remembered standing over that empty grave, throwing dirt onto a coffin that contained nothing but weighted pillows, my sympathy evaporated. When does he get back? His flight lands tomorrow evening. He managed to contact his brother, who wired him enough money for a plane ticket, but he's coming back to a very different world than the one he left. Are you ready for this?" Sarah nodded slowly. "I've been ready since I saw those Instagram posts of him laughing on the beach while you buried an empty coffin." Her voice hardened. "He humiliated you, Mom. He made you grieve alone while he celebrated with his lover using money he stole from our family. That's not something I can forgive." "And you're sure this will work?" "The insurance fraud case is airtight. He'll either take a plea deal or go to trial. Either way, he's looking at serious prison time. The money he stole will have to be returned, plus penalties and interest. His reputation is destroyed, and he'll be lucky if he doesn't end up owing more than he's worth after legal fees." Sarah paused, looking out the cafe window at the ordinary suburban street outside. "But the legal consequences are just the beginning, Mom. The real justice comes when he realizes that everyone knows what he did. His friends, his family, our neighbors, they're all going to learn that he's not a tragic widower who lost his wife too young. He's a con artist who tried to cash in on that wife's death while betraying her with another woman. He'll try to contact me when he gets back. Let him. But remember, as far as you know, I'm still dead. You're just a grieving mother who's slowly learning that her son-in-law isn't who she thought he was." Sarah reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm sorry you have to keep pretending to grieve for me, Mom. I know how hard this has been on you." I squeezed back. "Having you alive and safe is worth any amount of pretending. This will all be over soon. Once Marcus is arrested and charged, once the truth comes out publicly, I can start the process of legally returning from the dead. It'll be complicated, but Dr. Martinez has connections who can help smooth things over with the authorities." "And then what? You can't go back to your old life." "No, I can't. Sarah Chen will have to stay dead, at least officially. But Helen Chen's daughter can start fresh somewhere new, with a new identity and a chance to build something better." Sarah's expression softened. "Maybe even with her mother, if that mother wants to leave this place behind and start over too." I thought about my empty house, my quiet retirement, the loneliness that had been my constant companion since Sarah's supposed death. The idea of starting fresh, of having my daughter back in my life, was more appealing than I cared to admit. "We'll see," I said. "First, Let's make sure Marcus gets exactly what he deserves." Sarah smiled, and for the first time in weeks, it was a real smile, not the calculating expression she had worn while planning her revenge. "Oh, he will, Mom. He definitely will. Tomorrow night when he walks into that house expecting to resume his life as a grieving widower, he's going to discover that some lies have consequences he never imagined." Marcus's plane landed at 9:15 on a cold Friday evening. I knew because I had been tracking his flight obsessively, the same way I had been monitoring everything about him for the past 2 weeks. Sarah and I had spent the afternoon making final preparations for what she called the confrontation. I was sitting in my living room, pretending to watch television, when my phone rang at 10:30. Marcus's number flashed on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering, just long enough to sound like a woman who had been lost in her grief. "Helen." His voice was strained, exhausted. "Thank God you answered. I'm so sorry I haven't been able to call. There were problems with the phone service in Los Angeles, and then my flight was delayed, and everything has been just awful." "Marcus," I kept my voice carefully neutral, "I was wondering when you'd get back. I'm at the house now, but something's wrong with the locks. My key isn't working, and there's some kind of notice on the door. I can't read it properly in the dark." His voice cracked slightly. "Could you come over? I know it's late, but I'm scared to be alone right now." I glanced at the clock. Right on schedule. The locksmith Sarah had hired had changed the locks that afternoon, and the notice on the door was from the FBI, informing Marcus that the house was part of an ongoing fraud investigation. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said. "Thank you, Helen. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're the only family I have left now. That Sarah is—" He broke off, making a sound that might have been a sob, but sounded more like exhaustion. The drive to Sarah's house felt surreal. I had made this trip hundreds of times over the years. Family dinners, holidays, helping with home repairs, watching their dog when they traveled. But tonight felt different. Tonight I was driving toward a reckoning that had been building for weeks. When I arrived at the house, the street was nearly deserted, the cold wind sweeping dry leaves across the sidewalk. The facade of the house looked different now, darker, almost menacing, as if guarding a secret that no longer wanted to be hidden. Marcus was standing on the porch, pounding on the door latch like a desperate man. When he saw me, he ran to the car. "Helen, thank God! I don't understand what's happening. There's an FBI notice on the door, and my accounts are frozen. What the hell is going on?" I stepped out of the car, slowly controlling every breath. "Maybe it's better if we go inside and talk." "But I can't get in." "I have a new key." His expression twisted in confusion. I walked to the door, inserted the key Sarah had given me, and the lock clicked open smoothly. "How did you—" he started to ask, but I cut him off. "Come in, Marcus." He obeyed, and for a moment it felt like watching a ghost walk straight into his own reckoning. The living room was silent, heavy with anticipation. I gestured toward the couch. "Sit." Marcus sank onto the cushions, eyes darting around nervously. "Helen, please, tell me what's happening. My accounts, my money, everything's frozen. I can't access anything. I don't understand." I stood over him, my hands folded, voice calm and precise. "You're about to learn what happens when your lies and betrayals finally catch up with you." He swallowed hard, a tremor running through his body. This isn't real. Sarah, she's gone. She's dead. I've buried her. Everything I did, it was— "Nothing you did was hidden," I interrupted, letting the weight of my words hang in the air. "Every transaction, every affair, every scheme. Sarah documented it all before she vanished. And while you thought you were playing the game, she was already 10 moves ahead." His eyes widened, panic replacing arrogance. I don't understand." "You will," I said, letting my gaze harden. "The FBI has been notified. Your accounts are frozen. Any attempt to move funds or sell the house will be stopped. And when they question you, every piece of evidence Sarah collected will leave you with nowhere to hide." He leaned back, shaking. You're lying. This can't be happening." I knelt slightly to meet his eyes. "You underestimated us. You thought Helen Chen would grieve quietly. You thought Sarah Chen was too weak to fight back. You were wrong. Dead wrong." Marcus's breathing grew shallow, and he pressed his hands to his face. "Please, I can fix this. I can explain." "No," I said firmly. "There's nothing left to explain. You've spent 7 years building a life on lies, but the truth has a way of catching up. And tonight, Marcus, you face it all, alone." He froze as the sound of a phone alert went off behind him. I smiled slightly. It was Sarah's hidden tracker, her final confirmation that he had nowhere to run, nothing to manipulate. The reckoning had begun. And for the first time in 2 weeks, I felt the weight on my chest lift. Justice wasn't just a word anymore, it was here.